Mothers of married sons who don't like their daughter-in-laws, what's your reason? My son married a psycho witch. First, she told him she was pregnant. Then she said she was having twins. A little while later, she said she lost the babies. Then she said one miraculously survived, but when she got her period she determined that it had died too. As soon as her period was over, she told him she was pregnant again, and she lost those babies too. She refused to take a pregnancy test and never once went to see a doctor, much less an obgyn, although I offered to pay for it. Pretty sure the goof was never once pregnant. Son caught her cheating with her ex-boyfriend, and she claimed that her ex was taking advantage of her. Son called the police. The ex told the police that she traded sex for a cell phone. Then she accused my son of domestic violence. Cops didn't arrest him, though. They took her to a psychiatric hospital. Needless to say, I was happy when they divorced. But I keep a restraining order against her, just to make sure she never shows back up on my doorstep. I know why my mom doesn't like my sister-in-law. She's unpleasant and mean. Every time we went to visit, she will make sure there's at least one fight. With my brother, at least one yelling, drag out fight. So now every time we are trying to enjoy a visit, it's tense because we are waiting for the inevitable. Watching my nephew watch his parents scream at each other is the worst part. My brother went from doing okay, having friends and a sense of humor, and some shit, to now being overweight, unhappy, and having nothing to do on the weekends, but drink and watch TV, which she then picks a fight about. He's so wrapped up in it, even when I try to get him alone for a while, it takes him a while to unwind. Otherwise, he puts me down, so he doesn't feel awful. It sucks. I used to be best friends with my brother, and Ma knows it too, and hates her as much as she can. Mainly, it's pity because it's clear she's a miserable person. My Mill is a fundamentalist Christian who pretends to like me, but I know if I broke up with her son she would be more than overjoyed. Over the past 10 years she has said and done things that show her true colors. Myself and her ex-pastor son are atheists. His parents are relentless and creative in their tactics for us to return to the fold. She has said some incredibly rude things about non-Christians. What she doesn't consider is this is one of the many reasons why we don't believe or participate. Okay, so I don't like fruit pies. Big ducking whoop. This became a big deal to her. When we first started dating she told so she's not like us. When he questioned her about it, she told him it was because I don't like pie. He basically rolled his eyes at her. Yeah, so for every birthday for 6 years she'd bake me an apple pie. I'd politely choke down a piece, and she would stand smiling her ducking face off, and then say, oh, right, you don't like pie. You shouldn't feel like you need to eat that for my benefit. My saving grace is I'm a clean eater now, over 60 pounds down, and I don't eat sugar, meat, flour, etc. This has also created its own issue. I'm very appreciative when we are invited for a meal, even though I now have to bring my own food. She will not stop putting marshmallows on the sweet potato, sugar in the peas, bacon fat in her salad dressing, heaps of butter and sour cream in the potatoes, and then complains to me she can't seem to get to the same weight as me. She's got 30 plus years on me, and every time she sees me, she asks my current weight, and when I tell her I don't know she'll pout and grumble under her breath about it. Bitch, I work out every ducking day and I basically eat vegetables. This is not ducking easy, and it's also not for everyone. I don't judge anyone for their weight, that's your shit to deal with. I have plenty of my own baggage I'm lugging around. She's actually grabbed my hips and jiggled me like a side of beef trying to guess. Don't get me wrong, I really do love and appreciate her and what she has done for us. I feel that she's made zero attempt to get to know me. She basically knows where I work and where I live, but has never asked me about my life, ever. She has no ducking clue that both my brothers are gay, haha. My mother hates my wife, and she gives different reasons why. She's Mexican and probably marrying me to stay in the US. Not true, she's a natural born American. She's belligerent and argumentative. She stands up to people, including my mother. Now it's because she stays at home and I have to work. My wife has health issues and can't work. I always assume the real reason is because my wife makes me happy and my mom actually hates the idea of me being happy. So one of my sons got me to make an account quickly to give an actual perspective from a mother-in-law. For me, I don't like my other son's new wife because she's a lazy witch, to put it bluntly. They're both 26 now and she doesn't lift a finger to help do any housework, laundry etc. She seems to expect him to do everything for her and it feels like he's a doormat to me in that respect, even though he probably doesn't see it that way. You can go into their house and there'll be piles of dirty dishes just lying around unwashed and it's disgusting. Relationships should mean shared responsibility, but she doesn't do her part. On top of that, it's like she treats our home like hers and just makes herself at home around our pool and hot tub. She uses them more than we do and we live here. The only good thing I have to say is she doesn't seem to be after him for money. We are a well-off family and he's making pounds 100k plus at 26 and should be making pounds 500k by 35 to 40 at this rate, and she builds up more savings than he does despite earning 4x more. Honestly, I just wish she would do more to help out. Even just offering would be nice, even if we don't need it, but as long as they're happy I keep out of it. Not a mill, but I'll reply on behalf of my mom. My brother got married 6 months ago. When he proposed, he knew his wife less than a year. They were each other's rebound, and they moved so quickly. Now there's nothing wrong with that, to each their own. So we tried to get to know her and get along with her. She is a very judgmental person. My parents are divorced, so she would talk shit about one parent to the other, and vice versa, all while being fake nice. Also, she twists around a lot of things we've said to alienate my brother from us. So once they started wedding planning, we ended up having a fallout, and I didn't speak to my brother for almost a year. To this day, we are civil, but we don't speak unless we necessarily have to. It makes me very sad, but I want him happy, so I keep them at a distance to avoid any conflict. Also, my sil makes zero effort to befriend my mom. She calls my stepmother her mill and doesn't contact my mom. That would make sense if my mom was a crazy person, but she has tried and tried. So she finally gave up. I can answer the other way. I'm a daughter whose mother doesn't really like my husband. His personality doesn't jive with hers, which I could see at first, because he can be a bit tightly wound, where she's really laid back, but I guess she won't admit that her daughter is also tightly wound, and we're a great match. In addition, he didn't go to college, his family isn't as solid as ours, and his upbringing was not as good. We also eloped, not in the pregnant teenager sense of the word, but we didn't have a wedding, which she seems to blame him for, and that kind of seals the deal on her dislike of my husband and opinion of my marriage. She doesn't really ask about him, and when I mention him, her answers are curt and seem bothered. We don't currently live in my home state, which I'm hoping to change very soon. As long as she doesn't make her unwarranted opinions known and is able, on some level, to fake it, we'll be fine. That's not ideal, but it's likely how it'll be. Her mind is made up about him, and the things she said about him/us before we married aren't things I will ever fully heal from. She has a way, however, of subtly saying things without saying things, and if that's been going on with my family, we will have to address it. Apologizing in advance, but my husband and I have been together for 10 years now. Married for 7. I'm overweight by quite a bit. He is 5 years younger than I am. I have 2 children from 2 previous marriages. He divorced his wife, and they had no children, so it was drama free and clean. When he took me to meet the parents, super nice gated community. Insane house, decorated to the hilt. Literally perfect. Felt like Attila the Hun being in the company of such a pretty, petite family. I should mention his brother and wife were also there that night. The car ride there I was sweating bullets. I walked in the door, and from that exact moment I had never felt so accepted, welcomed, and loved. I admitted to my mother-in-law recently that, if I were in her shoes I would have told my son to run for the hills. She was honest and said as a mother she was cautious for her son and what my past might bring to our relationship. Even said we didn't want to like you, but you made it impossible. To brag a bit on my husband. He has become the most amazing man. Has been the best dad to my children, raised them. Yet, my mother on the other hand has been nothing but unaccepting and outright rude to him. Even recently stating that no one is good enough for her daughter yet. She is friends with both of my ex-husbands on Facebook and even remains friends with my first ex-mill. Says she does it to keep an open dialogue for the sake of my son. He has had nothing to do with his grandmother for years, so it's basically an excuse. She makes me sick. I'm pretty much done with her at this point. He has been amazing to me, our kids. We have built an incredible life together and still going strong a decade later, and she's still a douche to him. The rest of my family thinks he's a great guy and don't see what her problem is. If my mother-in-law could chime in. My husband went to Christian schools K-12. In Math East. In our 11 years together, we have not gone to church. Apparently, I turned him 7 years younger and bore his child at 18 lol that premarital sex and child out of wedlock thing. My parents aren't together, so I'm more likely to divorce also. I'm also liberal, more middle of the road. His whole family are out into tin, gun-bearing Republicans. We chose not to circumcise our son, and so on top of me being a teen mom, not married, etc. We didn't snip his penis and we are ruining his life.